Hi everyone, welcome to the Sustainability Spiral. I'm Ella,
And I'm Kim.
and this is the podcast where we take you through sustainability's hottest topics. And what a week for it!
On this week's episode, we're reflecting on London Climate Action Week, Europe's largest sustainability festival held in the run up to the COP process. Between late night comedy, corporate panels, and scouting out all of London's air conditioning in this heatwave, there was plenty to spiral about this week.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at the Sustainability Spiral and make sure to hit follow on your podcast player app so you never miss a spiral. Shall we get into it?
Let's get into it. So, London Climate Action Week.
Another year, another climate action week.
And what week it was this year, I feel like the
What a
heat
week.
wave, I just could not deal with the amount of like not even puns, but just every session over the course of the week made reference to the heat wave. And like on day one, I was like, yeah, I know. Day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, I was like, guys, we all know because we're all sweating.
I know. And we all know why there's a heat wave. Like, I feel like at some point I needed to stop hearing people make jokes about like climate disaster that we're in.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's a bit too real, guys.
It was harrowing. It was like a harrowing experience and very like dystopian to try and talk about climate action whilst like it's the highest temperatures in June that the UK has ever experienced, and everything was just falling apart around us as we were trying to get to all these different events. For then everyone to be like, oh yeah, let's like keep going with the pledges. I was like, oh my God.
I feel like, not to like jump ahead in our conversation, but I do feel like this week, more so than like previous ones we've been to before, it felt like people had a different sense of like quite raw honesty about
Yeah.
where we are that was like both like quite helpful but also quite depressing in that
Yeah.
it's hard to feel motivated when you're like sitting in like nearly 40-degree heat in London in June talking about climate change and not be like, well, I think we've already like messed it up a bit, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is
Which
this
is
the
like,
wake up call that people need? Because I guess the rooms that we're in, I think we were all getting frustrated at there's a heat wave gags because we were like, we know, we literally work in the field to try and stop this happening. And then hopefully this will like help other people who maybe aren't thinking about climate change as part of their 9 to 5 be like, ooh, we maybe should do some things to address this because it's just not comfortable and
yeah.
everything shuts down.
Yeah. I think it's like all these reminders that have to come to like get people to think about climate change, like, the energy crises and like massive heat waves. But like
Yeah.
hopefully it does like bring it to the forefront of people's minds.
Yeah, not to downward spiral at the outset, but obviously we've had a few of these events now and people still don't really seem to wake up.
No.
So, but let's try to be optimistic about it.
We should.
I was going to say, for London Climate Action Week to have 3 consecutive hottest June days in the UK ever recorded be broken. To just be hitting like 37 degrees C. Wild. And I also thought it was really interesting about the red extreme heat warning from the Met Office. So I went into a bit of a rabbit hole about the Met Office's extreme heat weather warnings. So this is a new weather warning that they have started to issue. So they first did it in 2022 when we hit 40 degrees C. 40. And there was like a national emergency declared. I think they had to like shut loads of schools and like railway systems and whatever. And then the Met Office was like, we actually need to have like a red amber rating system for extreme heat. So that was the first time it was issued. This week, I think it was issued for 3 consecutive days again.
Crazy.
And it's like, that's not that long between, like, red weather warnings should be like once every couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, ideally like once every decade.
Yeah.
I was making note of like things that were said across the week when I was on public transport, and I was getting the train to my office in Luton on Wednesday, and there was like an announcement over the speakers that was like, you should only be travelling if necessary. There's like a red heat warning you shouldn't be
Yeah.
traveling unless you like absolutely have to. And I was like, that is crazy. Like to be for us to be in a state where it's like you should not be outside because it's
Yeah.
so hot is
I
just
know.
like bonkers.
Also, wear the mugs that just kept traveling
I
across
know.
the week.
But this was gonna be my, like,
Like sitting on the
my
tube.
positive spin on the downward spin that we were just in, downward spiral,
Mm.
was that it was London Climate Action Week, and yes, it was very hot, and yes, there was a heat wave, but there's something really nice about London Climate Action Week where you just get so many people all working in the same field, and, like, it is a little bubble of kind of, like, optimism and positivity and, like, good things
Yeah.
happening. And I wonder maybe we should delve into a little bit about like what London Climate Action Week actually is.
Yeah, let's do it. So, London Climate Action Week, I have only really, it's only really been in my orbit, I would say, for maybe like the last 4 years.
Yeah.
But then I looked it up and it's been going on for 8, I think. So I think the first one was ahead of the COP that was in Glasgow.
Ah, okay, that makes sense.
And then that's why the Climate Innovation Forum, which is the I guess the event that kind of formally kicks off the week that's held at the Guildhall, like that was set up ahead of COP in Glasgow, I think, to like bring consensus to like the policymakers of like what the issues were that they wanted to go to the Glasgow COP with, which I thought was very interesting. And then I went onto the London Climate Action Week website to try and look at like how they actually define the week. My definition is like it's a week where businesses will almost like showcase some of their sustainability thinking. So like in the past when we worked together, we obviously launched like our climate transition plan at London Climate Action Week. And it's just a good opportunity for like sustainability practitioners to like carve time out of their diary to go and like learn from the field. So that's kind of how I see it. And then also obviously lots of interaction with like policymakers as well and just like climate like leaders and like big thinkers and just see what they're all thinking about. But the formal website defines it as an event held every June that unites global and local leaders to accelerate meaningful climate action. It serves as a major forum to develop solutions for cutting carbon emissions, addressing the climate crisis, and sharing best practices in climate finance, policy, and community resilience. You know what? That does sum it up quite well.
It does, what a mouthful. Yeah, you're right, it does it does sum it up. It to me, it's just like a convening of lots of different events. It's just like a period in time where people from across sectors, from across businesses, government, the charity sector, like education sector, descend on London and either host or attend climate related events.
Yeah.
And it's just like everyone has decided that we're all going to do the same thing in this week. And we're
Yeah.
like, this is the week
That,
for us, guys.
that's a nicer mouthful. So, what does your week look like this year?
So I feel like I've never really made the most of London Climate Action Week. I think, like you said, I only really became aware of it a few years ago. And then I think the first year where I was like, I'm going to really try and make the most and like absorb as much, we hosted an event last year and all of my time was taken up prepping for the event. And then by the time we'd done our event, I was too tired to do anything else.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel like I've never really made the most of it. So this year I was like, I really want to do more events, like just get a bit more of that like optimism um
Mm.
that I feel like I need.
You're
um
so right. It's such a different experience hosting versus attending.
yeah, for sure. And it was like really fun to see all the mechanisms behind hosting an event like that. And we hosted our event in collaboration with an organization called Blue Earth, who do lots of different events throughout the year around like sustainability. Lots of really cool events as well. And like it was really fun just seeing like who you could bring together. And as Kim said, we were launching the transition plan where we previously worked. But yeah, this year I was like, I'm really going to try and make the most of this and try and go to as much as I can, which was good. My a lot of my team were also in the city from various different places. So it was a really nice week of like seeing people in person, like going to events with them and just like having like in-person connection, to be honest.
Nice. Love
Yeah.
that.
How about you?
My week this year, again, similar, very different experience. just being an attendee rather than formally hosting anything. Because yeah, you're right. I feel like when we hosted, even like I think it was maybe on the Wednesday of the week, so like the Monday and Tuesday, we couldn't really go to other events because we were just prepping for our launch. Whereas this year, from Monday, I feel like I was just like in it, in the beast, and just like bopping around to as many different events as possible. Um, Also, I've like recently moved industry within sustainability. So for me, it was like a super helpful, just almost like crash course. I feel like I just got to go to loads of different events where they were talking about my industry and like absorb as much as possible and also like make connections with people in those industries, which was really helpful. Um, but then also this year, I feel like there was more like fun. Not that those events aren't fun, but they're obviously very like technical and quite like intense brain wise. But I feel like we also managed to go to like some really fun, more creative climate events this year. So obviously the last episode we spoke about Hot Mess, um, which I don't think is like tied to London Climate Action Week at all. It's just like a running show on the West End. But there was a lot of nice like arts and like culture showcases across the week that Ella and I went to, which was super fun.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like it was like a really nice balance of some of the more like corporate traditional events
Yeah.
versus some quite interesting, like people trying to kind of figure out how they want to tell the narrative. And I think that goes to like a broader trend in sustainability where we're trying to figure out like how we communicate better and how we like story tell better because like
Yeah.
people are a bit fatigued with it all. So maybe that's quite like an interesting like reflection that it's because we're in this place we're trying to figure out how we become more creative with our communication. Maybe that's just like reflected in the types of events people decided to put on.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
Mm.
true. So the Monday of Climate Action Week is usually started at the Guildhall. So the Guildhall is host to an event called the Climate Innovation Forum, which is kind of where like all the big dogs come and like do their big speeches. I kind of feel like.
It very much feels like the pre-COP event, right?
Yeah.
Like you've got like the presidents of past or upcoming COPs, like good range of like government stakeholders. That to me
Yeah.
very much feels like it is like the flagship event, I think, of the week.
Yeah, for sure. Like the Minister of Climate was there.
Oh,
As you said, there was
Katie
also
White.
like, yeah, I'm obsessed with her.
I love Katie White. Like, I am such a fangirl. If she, and we can touch on this in a second, but if she changes role with the current situation, I'm going to be devastated.
Yeah, I know. I hope she doesn't because she does bring such good vibes to climate
Such good
policy
vibes.
and just seems like such a nice person
And
and
such
like
an
normal.
interesting, like, background as well.
Yeah, I actually don't know
Um,
too much about her background. I've just seen her speak at a couple of different events and always found her to be a very engaging climate minister.
so she worked at Friends of the Earth when they did the campaign for the Climate Change Act.
Cool. That's so funny because I feel like often no shade to ministers, but it's quite rare to have ministers who've worked in the field of the department that they're responsible for.
I think this is why
So
I like her so much because I feel like she just really gets it.
so Ella and I, it's not often that we get to go to the same work events anymore. But we
No.
both got to go to this one, so that was really nice. But in the opening remarks, like Ella's phone just buzzed and she just showed me it and Keir Starmer just resigned.
Like
Ah.
9:30 a.m. Monday morning, London Climate Action Week kicking off, political turmoil.
I know. And do you know what's just so frustrating about that is that every single session, especially with business leaders, all they were saying is, we just need stability. The problem with like us being unable to make progress is because it's just so unstable and uncertain. And like Prime Minister just resigns.
I know. And like this
Yeah.
is not a political podcast, so we won't like delve too much into it, but I just like you're right, it is just there's no steady state. Like what have we had? Like 7 prime ministers in 15 years or something crazy? Like
Yeah.
it's just bonkers. But I just think what a way to kick the week off.
Yeah. Weirdly, just like, I don't know if you found this, but just not that much chat about that afterwards. I feel like everyone just was like, oh, he's gone. We're just
No.
either so numb to the change Or I think because the heat wave, everyone was very overwhelmed by it. Like that was the majority of discussion that I was having. Everyone's
Everyone's
been like, I'm so
overstimulated.
hot. I'm so hot.
I think you're right though. I think we're also just like we've just baselined to the fact that like
Yeah.
I don't now expect a prime minister to be in office for 5 years.
Yeah. Shifting baseline syndrome.
Like
Yeah. That is crazy.
I can't picture anyone being a prime minister for a full 5 year term,
Yeah.
whoever they are. No, like no offense to any of them, but like
Yeah. Not
I
good.
just can't even picture that anymore. So yeah, I think you're right. We've
Yeah.
just like shifted in how we think about these things, but
Yeah. So Keir's out. Um, and then went to like lots of really interesting sessions over the course of the day. There was a really good one that I went to that Climeco hosted with Amazon about super pollutants. I think my frustration with like panel discussions sometimes is that like it feels very scripted. It kind of just feels like we're all rehashing like the same challenges and we kind of all know what the problems are, like what are the solutions. Whereas this Climeco event on super pollutants also took me out of a carbon focused lens. So they were talking about other greenhouse gases and like their potency. So they took me out of my very like carbon focused mindset and we're talking about some other super pollutants, specifically nitrous oxide, and how that is often overlooked in favor of like carbon cutting initiatives by businesses because they're just like very focused on the carbon numbers. But there's all of these other super pollutants that are sometimes left at the wayside. Nitrous oxide is 260 times more potent in terms of global warming potential than CO2. Isn't that insane?
that's
260.
crazy.
Wild.
That is crazy. I always
Um,
think this about when you look at like other greenhouse gases because there's 7 under the Kyoto Protocol, right?
yes. Yes. You've got your carbon dioxide, your methane, CH4,
Mm.
nitrous oxide, N2O, hydrofluorocarbons, HFCs, perfluorocarbons, PFCs, sulfur hexafluoride, SF6, and then nitrogen trifluoride, NF3.
And like lots of those, all of those have higher global warming potentials than carbon. Like carbon's just
Yeah.
the like baseline, but like some of them are like hundreds of times like nitrous oxide, which is just
Yeah.
crazy.
I
Obviously,
know.
there's like
It's
much
mad.
smaller concentrations of them, but anyway,
So I thought that was very interesting. And the discussion was very much focused on the solutions that they have. So Climeco have this technology that essentially, and this is an oversimplification, but they like the pipes that emit nitrous oxide in manufacturing processes, they can put another pipe on that. And then that basically splits the nitrous oxide into nitrogen and oxygen. And then it obviously goes into the atmosphere and it's fine.
that is so cool.
Isn't that so cool?
This is where I get really geeky about stuff like this. It's like people just come up with such interesting things.
I know. And he was like, this isn't a theory. Like, we have done this and this works. And um we should keep rolling this out.
That's so cool.
And then the highlight of my week on Monday night, Al
What was it?
Gore.
Oh,
Al Gore in the house. So cool. Like, I feel like my sustainability journey started with Al Gore's An Inconvenient Truth. And like, I watched the DVD back in the day, maybe when I was like 12. Probably not that age appropriate, but my dad made me watch it. And I was like, Al Gore just like everything he's saying is so logical to me. Like, this all makes sense. I also rewatched it a couple of years ago, and in the talk that he's delivering, he talks about how like infectious diseases and like global pandemics are going to be more rife because of climate change. And I was like, "Ooh,
interesting. I
yeah,
haven't seen that in years. I think I
I
saw it when I
know.
was at school. Maybe I should rewatch
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, we should have a rewatch viewing party.
Rewatch and
Um,
react.
rewatch and react. The whole time I'll just be like,
Love you, Al.
love you, Al. But then, yeah, Katie White, the climate minister, was doing a speech, and then Al Gore came in the room, and then he did the closing keynote, and he just like in his like Texan charm delivered a motivating like speech that just made me think, maybe all hope isn't lost. And we should be really pissed off about this. Like, we've known this information for so long. Like, what are we doing? Why are we baking in like 37 degrees C?
Honestly, I do feel like actually at Climate Innovation Forum, there was a bit of a America trying to get a rap back. Not obviously
Yeah.
from the government, but there was a couple of like interesting groups of people there who were talking about like sustainability is still happening in America. We're still trying to do the right thing. Obviously, like Al Gore being one of them.
Yeah, there was an event. I didn't go to it, but I saw it on the agenda. It was like America is still up for it.
Yeah, exactly. That
Yeah.
was what I was talking about.
Um, and there
I
was
wonder
lots of
like
Americans
how
there.
Yeah. I wonder how Al Gore's getting on. Like, I wonder how he did he talk about, like, how he's feeling about the US, or was it very unpolitical?
He was political. He was like, he didn't obviously say it. This is a paraphrase of what he said, but he was just like, Trump is an absolute moron, and like what he's doing in the climate agenda in the States is like outrageous. Um,
Yeah.
so there was a bit of that. He wasn't like um sensitive, shall we say?
Mm.
He made his opinions very
That's just
clear.
made me think actually, I was listening to, not to plug a different podcast, but I was listening to The Rest Is Politics the other day, and they interviewed Dan Jurgensen, who's the European Commissioner for Energy and Housing, and
Mm,
the episode is all about net zero and the North Sea. So, like, kind of harks back to the episode we did like a month or so ago. We were talking about the North Sea and
mm,
my absolute loathing of people being like, "It's going to save the planet." Anyway, but I would really recommend listening to that episode because he did a really interesting job of talking about like the economic arguments for renewable energy and how even in the US, not everywhere, but in states where it makes economic sense, they are like rolling out like wind and solar to
mm.
like quite a big extent because like financially it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
So there is still stuff happening in the States. It's just not necessarily under an argument of sustainability. Like, obviously, Trump's
yeah.
like whole stance on climate change not being real is like deeply problematic, but he'll only be around for a few more years, hopefully. So,
I know. Fingers crossed.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that is also like an interesting observation that in a lot of cases the business case is just there for green initiatives, even if it's not just green. Like,
Mm,
it's cheaper. And
yeah.
another thing that I think was spoken about a lot this year was the Iran war and the Strait of Hormuz. And everyone just being like, okay, this is the second once in a generation energy crisis that we've experienced in the last 5 years. Like, maybe we should like wake up to the signal that the market's trying to give us and actually be serious about getting off of fossil fuels and
Yeah.
relying on it for our economies. Do you want to guess some fun stats about the week?
Ooh, sure.
Do you want to guess how many events happen at London Climate Action Week over the course of the week?
Ooh, it's got to be like over 1,000.
Okay, yeah, that's true. It says more than 1,000. It hasn't given me an exact number, but more than 1,000. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then how many people do you think attend London Climate Action Week?
I think I remember reading this. Like this year, it was something they were estimating it was going to be like 75,000 people.
Ding, 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 ding.
Ding, ding, ding,
Yeah,
ding,
perfect.
ding. Because I
You
remember
really are
thinking, like,
living and breathing London Climate Action Week stats.
100%. Because I remember reading that stat and thinking, that's a similar amount of people that have been to COP in the last few years.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it
Like
like
about
that.
about 80,000, I think, in Belém last year.
Feels less saturated by oil and gas lobbyists, though.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe
It's
we
because
weren't in the right
they've got all the
rooms.
tickets to they've got the tickets to COP, so everyone else has to come to London Climate Action Week instead.
To like throw lots of stats out there, but I'm going to throw some stats out there from the Climate Innovation Forum. I think from some of the opening talks that we saw in the morning. So, one is that 75% of the globe live in countries that are net importers of fossil fuels,
Mm,
which is
yeah,
crazy. Like,
yeah.
that's a crazy stat. And also, for every £5 that are invested in clean energy,
Mm.
£4 of that is invested in China in one country,
I know, and
which,
it's like, why do you think that is, guys? I feel
yeah.
like they are like, it's a huge risk, and if we want sovereignty as a nation, we need to get off of these like global markets ASAP.
Yeah. They also arguably have like lower political barriers, given it's like not a democracy. But
There is that.
but I agree, they obviously like see it as there's a reason that they're investing so much money in it. And I just think that like 4 out of every £5 in one country.
Yeah,
What
that
are
is
we doing,
crazy.
everyone? What are we
Yeah,
doing?
what we do. Also, some other fun stats that I heard over the week, that in the US last year, there were 27 $1 billion storm events. So, like storm events that had caused $1 billion worth of damage across the year. And then
That's
obviously,
crazy.
just Trump is just like, it's fine. Um, Another fun stat from Climate Action Week was from Al Gore's speech, and he said that the UK have saved £7 million a day from having so much solar and wind in terms of the costs that we haven't had to abate from the Strait of Hormuz blocking global fossil fuel supply chains. So like that's crazy because what consumers are already feeling the impact of that in terms of like energy bills, the markets are feeling the impacts of that in terms of energy bills. But because we have actually got such a green grid here in the UK, an estimate of £7 million a day saving is that kind of weird thing with sustainability where if it's a cost that you have to pay, like storm damage, people kind of respond to that better than an avoided cost. Whereas if we were having to pay £7 million extra a day now for energy, like people aren't patching that onto the investment that we've done into green energy in the UK over the last 15
Mm.
years or whatever it is.
But the thing that is crazy is that like when you think about fossil fuels, like the cost for us to buy fossil fuels because of like multiple energy crises and like other
Mm.
factors has gone up for us to purchase the exact same amount, if not less.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like and like I don't know about you or anyone else, but like the economics of that don't really make sense to me. And I just like, I don't know who's not getting this message, but someone's not getting this
Yeah.
message and they need to.
Well, I guess the people who are getting the message positively for them are like the oil and gas giant shareholders because they're just like, another record breaking year for profits.
They're like, yay, us. Um, so we've talked about your favourite moment of London Climate Action Week. I
Yes.
think my favourite event from London Climate Action Week has to be me and you, Monday night. We really like peaked the week on Monday, I think.
I know. I
Um,
was just thinking, we've been speaking for like 45 minutes and we haven't even got to the like evening of the first day. This is the amount of like information that was crammed into my brain. Like by Friday, I was like, I cannot take any more information in. It's completely saturated.
is stuffed up there.
But Monday was good.
Monday was good. And my highlight of the week was me and Kim went to go and see would you call it a stand-up comedy? Like a comedy show. It's not really stand up because it was like quite scripted, but it was called So
Yeah.
Nostalgia by Matt Winning. And just looking at my like notes that I made after we watched it, my first note is all caps funny because it was hilarious.
We were lolling. I don't know if it was delirium, partly because obviously it was 35 degrees C,
So
but
hot.
actually it was very air-conned in there. I forgot about
It
that.
it was, and I was having a team dinner, that ran a bit late, and so I, like, ran across London from London Bridge to Soho. Like, I was, like, running to get on the tube, got on the tube, ran off the tube, and by the time I met
Oh,
Kim, I
so
was
hot.
honestly like a tomato, and I was like,
Mm,
this is you may be inappropriate for the podcast, but I was sweating profusely. And then we walked into that
gorgeous.
air conditioned theatre, and I was like, oh, thank
Out of
God for climate
interest,
adaptation.
which tube line did you get?
I cannot remember. Jubilee? Northern?
Jubilee. There's also been an article that came out this week that talked about different temperatures on different tube lines. So, Jubilee, hot, not the hottest. So, someone went onto all of the different lines with a thermometer. So, do you want to guess which one was the hottest?
The central line would be my guess.
Ding, ding, ding. Again, you're getting all my stat attacks bang on today. Central line was the hottest at 39.4 degrees C, followed very closely by the Jubilee line, which was 37.2. So I think like the combination of getting on the Jubilee line and like running across London puts it into like very fair perspective that you rocked up to that theatre like, I am dead.
Yeah, it was not I mean, you can see in the reel that we posted how not good I look. It was not a vibe, but what was a vibe was the air-conditioned theatre.
Yeah, the aircon. Appreciate it.
And everyone should go and see So Nostalgia by Matt Winning. I think he said he's taking it on tour. So
Yes.
check it out because honestly, I will caveat this. I don't think it's the most optimistic thing we've ever seen.
True.
It was a bit of a downer in some ways. I didn't like leave feeling like we're really like nailing the climate crisis, obviously because we aren't.
Yeah.
But it was a really like funny way to be quite negative.
I know. It felt very Scottish. So Matt Winning is a Scottish bloke and he told the story of Esso and BP and it's like the information that they've had for a very long time and like kind of what has led us to where we are now without like giving too much away. But just with like classic Scottish comedy weaved throughout. So we were really lolling, even though, yeah, you're right, it wasn't the most like hopeful, uplifting message
Yeah.
to leave with, but realistic. Like it is where we are, isn't it?
It is. It is where we are. And I just think like what a great way to deliver it with like it was like depressing climate reality wrapped in Scottish comedy. And that is exactly
Yeah,
the parcel I want to digest that information in.
it's the package I need.
Yeah.
Um, so it was really good. Yeah, go check it out if you want to go and see some climate comedy.
Yeah. I would highly recommend everyone go and watch it. You've got two things now to go and do. Three things. Go and watch Hot Mess and So Nostalgia if you're in London and listen to the Rest is Politics episode. So guys, I hope you're ready for your homework.
Yeah, and we've got book club coming up soon, so everyone needs to get on that as
We
well. Breathe by Sadiq
do.
Khan. So we've done our favourite parts of the week, which both seem to be on Monday. Should we do our peaks and pits?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if I had any other peaks. My other peak, non event, like London Climate Action Week event related, but two of my colleagues are from Portugal and we ended up finding a pub to watch the Portugal match in on Tuesday after
Nice.
work. And the pub had this like heat wave basket of like things to help their customers through the heat wave, which as a pale English ginger person, I really appreciated. But it had like sun cream, it had fans, it had
Oh,
electrolytes, and I just thought that was so cool. I loved it. The castle
pun
in
intended.
Islington.
Shout
Yeah, it
out
was
to the
not cool,
castle.
but
So, in terms of my pits for the week, I had to travel up to Birmingham for an event with work. Got there okay. Like every other train was cancelled. To be fair, the train companies had issued a like don't travel unless absolutely essential warning. But I had a work event to go to, so, and it was running, so I went up. And then about an hour before I was meant to get the train back to London, someone just came over to me being like, all of the trains to London are cancelled. There is no way for us to get back. So that was fun. And again, just like, is any of our infrastructure built to deal with this? I don't think
no.
so.
And I think it was interesting seeing a lot of events getting cancelled or moved online. Like this week in
Yeah.
London Climate Action Week, there was a lot of stuff that got cancelled because of the heat. And there was a lot of like my LinkedIn was full of people being like, I was meant to be at London Climate Action Week, but I can't make it because my kid's school is closed, so I'm on daycare, or like nursery's closed, or the
Yeah.
trains aren't running. And
Yeah.
like that felt like a really big theme throughout the week, like either events being cancelled or people just like not being able to make it. And you're like, when the weather, i.e., this crazy heat wave, i.e., climate change, is the reason for
Mm.
this, it's like very meta.
Yes. Did you see also that the Daily Mail caught hold of events getting cancelled? So there was an amazing Daily Mail article headline, as they do, that was like extreme heat event cancelled due to extreme heat. And then a
I
couple
did
of
see
people,
that.
like my friends and family, texted me because they must have seen it, and they were like, "Oh, is the whole week cancelled?" And I was like, "No, it's just like one event."
Did you go to any events where there wasn't air conditioning? I went to one and it was rough.
I don't think I did. I think every event that I went to had aircon, but the biggest challenge was traveling to and from. So I was just like getting on forest bikes where I could.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. I think that was
Yeah.
one of my pits. The event was really good and really interesting, but the lack of aircon and,
Yeah.
like, when you're like, "It's so hot, I just can't I really wanna concentrate on what these
Yeah.
amazing people are saying," but it's just, like, so warm that all I'm thinking about is, like, how much I'm sweating.
Yeah, yeah, it is so bad. I had an event that I was really looking forward to, which was a climate adaptation walking tour that was gonna,
Oh,
like, round off the
yeah.
week. Um, so they were gonna do a walking tour, like, in the city of London, showing, like, different climate adaptation measures to climate change, and they had to cancel it because it was, like, 35 degrees, so it would have just been really unsafe for people to be outside in that environment. Again, I thought that was a bit,
Crazy.
like, ironic.
Evidently, we're not well adapted enough.
Yeah.
Also, it is kind of crazy that in not our last episode, but the one before was an episode about heat waves, and again, we're having the same conversation. Anyway, should we do other pits from the week? Do you have any other pits other than the heat?
Eh, I think not a pit, but an observation and something that you and I have spoken about before. There's got to be a way to reinvent the panel.
Yeah, I agree.
I think panel discussions have a time and a place, but I did feel maybe towards the end of the week that I just almost couldn't take in the information in the format in which it was being delivered, where you have like a moderator and then four or five people, in a lot of cases, having a very scripted discussion. So everyone kind of agrees with each other. And um, I don't know, I kind of get the feeling that often it is just like an opportunity for people to represent their themselves or their business's point of view. Um, rather than like really delving into some of the biggest issues of the conversation. Also, like half an hour isn't long enough for
No,
five different viewpoints on a really sticky issue.
I was going to say, I think like, my controversial opinion, and I don't think this is that controversial, is that the five panelists, half an hour panel needs to die a death. Like,
Yeah.
panels should be limited to, like, no more than 3 people, in my opinion, like,
Mm,
covering different spectrums of an argument. So you should have, like, 3 people, 1 who's neutral, 1 who's on one side, and 1 who's on another, so you get, like,
yeah.
a diverse conversation. They should be at least 45 minutes. I just don't think you can have a proper conversation in half an hour and then
Yeah.
15 minutes for a Q&A. Like, these things shouldn't be shorter than an hour, which I know is, like, really long, but you can't get
Yeah.
any depth or quality. So, like, that's my PSA to anyone organizing these events is, like, that's how you should do it. So I hope you enjoy that. I hope that's helpful.
A hard take, but I think that. No,
I
I completely
agree,
agree.
yeah.
But then what is the reinvention of the panel? You know, I think that like debate style is better. And I didn't get to go to the event, but I was having the same discussions with a couple of people over the course of the week, and they were kind of saying the same thing, but they'd gone to an event, I think at the Conduit, where it was a climate debate rather than a panel. So like two
Mm,
people had different viewpoints, and then they would actually just debate it out, which I
I
think is
think that
a nicer way to do it.
to your point earlier, this is the problem that people run into is if you're, like, representing an organization or a company, like, I understand that from a company's perspective, they have, like, a reputation that they want to protect
Mm,
or a line that they wanna deliver, and, like, it is I think for the most part, people in as an individual are doing it because they want to, like, talk about something they're really interested in, but if you're
mm,
doing it and representing an organization, there's always going to be limits on what the organization wants you to say. And so I think like
yeah.
it is a really, really tricky balance. I went to an event recently. It was like an event in the run up to Climate Action Week about um kind of technology implementation run by Accenture. And the way they structured it was like short, sharp keynote speeches. So like between
Mm,
5 and 15 minutes on separate topics, then a fireside chat with one person,
yeah.
and then round tables, and I
Yeah.
thought that
I like
was, like,
that.
quite a good setup, and one of the events I went to on Thursday also did a similar thing in that they had kind of, like they had some panels, but then they broke everyone out into, like, breakout rooms, and that was
Mm,
where the conversation was really interesting because everyone's speaking to each other and sharing opinions, and you're kind of, like, informed by what you've already heard, but you actually are able to have a discussion, and, like, the benefit of London Climate Action Week isn't really going sitting in a room and, like, listening to other people speak. It's, like,
Mm.
who you end up
It's
connecting
like the
with, who you end up
connection.
chatting with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, like, the conversations that you have that, like, spark ideas or spark collaborations, and, like, some events do that really well and some don't do it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. 100% agree.
Sometimes, like, it can work. So, like, I went to Reset Connect, which is, like, another one of the big, like, flagship events of London Climate Action Week, and it's essentially, like, just a, like, bloody massive conference. So you've got, like, a big expo with, like, stands and then, like, loads of
Is that the Excel?
stages. It's at the ExCeL, which is, like,
Yeah. Big.
where dreams go to die, I think.
Mm. Yeah. Tough.
Um But they had, like, 6 stages maybe, like, all next to each other, and
Mm.
everyone was wearing those little, like, headphones. So, like, rather than, like, people, like, speaking, everyone was, like, sat there with their headphones on listening to the panel, and it looked very, like,
Very
dystopian,
Black
like,
Mirror. Yeah.
yeah, it was a bit freaky because everyone's just, like, sat there, like it
Mm.
was like a Doctor Who episode or something. Um, but I did a couple of sessions there that were sponsored by KPMG that were, like, quite specifically talking about, like, sustainability reporting legislation and, like, laying out a roadmap, like, essentially, like, free consulting information because 'cause they're, like,
Dream.
presenting what they do
Yeah.
best, which is, like, you know, in like, taking in lots of information and then, like,
Yeah.
relaying it and giving, like, a really
Yeah. Yeah.
clear overview of what's coming. And then there was another one around, turning sustainability data into, like, financial decision-making data, and, like,
Mm.
those were very, like, curated, very sponsored sessions, but they had a really clear message and a really niche topic, and it was actually
Mm.
they were both
Yeah.
really helpful. Whereas I think if you're, like, on a sponsored panel and the topic is, like, how do we
Energy
embed
transition.
yeah, or, like, the nature crisis, and you're like, you can't do that topic justice in half an hour.
Yeah, you're so right. Maybe even with like panel discussions, like just the more niche the better. And
No.
you're so right. Like those like these are the tips for your regulation implementation roadmap. Like that is what is actually useful to sustainability professionals.
Yeah,
So
for
shout out to
sure.
them.
Shout out to them.
So I feel like we had intense weeks.
Yeah.
Intense weeks in many ways, heatwave wise, information wise, bopping around town wise. In my case, getting stranded in Birmingham.
Not
But
ideal.
we're through the other side. So maybe if we just want to wrap up by giving our favorite quote of the week and then some of our key takeaways.
I love it. I am happy to kick off with my favorite quote of the week, which is
Go
from
for it.
the sustainability love of my life, who we've already spoken about, Katie White, MP, Climate Minister. And she was at an event I was at on Thursday, talking about the Net Zero Coalition, which is like something that the Conservative government did. And it essentially like brings together government and businesses, and they just kind of meet, I think, 4 or 5 times a year and talk about how businesses and government can collaborate better and like have a more of an open, like non-political dialogue.
Mm,
And she was talking about that. And in that, she was saying, my favorite quote was, "The era of fossil fuel security is over."
nice.
And I think
That
it's
packages it up
true.
nicely.
Exactly. And it like it's clear, it's succinct, it makes a lot of sense, and it like has a good like action behind it. Um,
Yeah.
so I really liked that. What were my other ones? My other one, someone said we need to have in sustainability, we need to have a jargon detox.
Yeah.
And I
Agree.
could not agree more.
Nice. Love that. My favorite quotes from the week were probably both from the Al Gore sesh, just because I left feeling so inspired. But one, his kind of like closing remark was around this not being a time for retreat, this being a time to double down, which I thought was great given like his American context. And then he also did a quote which I thought was really nice, and he was like, he basically was like, our children and like the children of tomorrow will either come to us and say, like, what were you thinking in terms of like not addressing this with the information that you had at the time, or they'll say, like, how did you like have the courage to like go against the grain of what was accepted and just like go against what everyone else was kind of doing as business as usual. And like if we just almost use that second case scenario as the goal, that will help to like guide us in the decisions that we make, which I thought was sweet.
I love that. I love that. You
Yeah.
know, people are gonna ask us, like, "Why didn't you do anything?" And we don't wanna be
Yeah.
in that situation, and we won't
Yeah.
be.
Not with this podcast, baby.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Well, another hectic week, in London Climate Action Week this year,
Yeah. Intense.
but good. I always need it. It always comes around, and I always need that, like, hit of reality with a dose of, like, optimism and collaboration and, like, just positive vibes.
Yeah. And also nice to just like reconnect with everyone too.
Yeah, for sure.
Shared therapy session with everyone working at the space,
Exactly. Always need some
which is good.
free therapy.
Yeah.
Well, that's a wrap
Nice.
on our London Climate Action Week episode. Our next episode is all about the World Cup, which I know we've talked a little bit about today. Anyway, we'll be back in 2 weeks.
We'll be back soon. Thanks so much, guys. Stay cool. Have a good one.